The incident. The archaeologists of the Vendrix Collective had a reputation for being meticulous. Their careful excavations had uncovered countless ancient ruins across the galaxy, each dig site treated with reverence and scientific precision. But on the human colony world of New Eden, their reputation meant nothing to 8-year-old Sarah Chen, who watched them work with undisguised fascination from her favorite perch in the twisted branches of a terraformed oak tree. The alien researchers, with their iridescent scales and multiple sets of manipulator arms, had become part of the landscape over the past 3 months. They were studying what appeared to be the remains of an ancient defense installation, predating both human and Vendrix civilization. The site lay just beyond the edges of New Providence, the colony's capital city, where fields of golden wheat swayed beneath purple-tinged skies. Dr. Catal, the lead researcher, had even taken to waving one of his upper limbs at Sarah whenever he spotted her. She reminded him of his own offspring back home, curious, full of life, and blissfully unaware of the tensions simmering between their species. The Vendrix and humanity had maintained an uneasy peace since first contact 30 years ago, their relationship marked by diplomatic friction and occasional border disputes. The energy readings are unprecedented. Catal's assistant, Menxra, reported, her scales shifting to an excited blue-green. Whatever powered this facility, it's unlike anything in our database. Catal moved closer to examine the readings himself. They had finally managed to access what appeared to be a primary control chamber, its surfaces still gleaming after millennia buried beneath the soil. Fascinating. The power signature is still active, just dormant, if we can. A high-pitched whine cut through the air, making Sarah cover her ears. Below her tree, the archaeological team froze, their scales collectively flashing warning patterns of red and black. The ancient facility was awakening. Shut it down. Catal barked, but Menxra's manipulators were already dancing across their equipment. The whine grew louder, and Sarah felt the hair on her arms stand up as energy crackled through the air. I can't. Menxra's scales had gone pale with fear. The system's cycling up faster than we can track. It's reading us as intruders. Catal's head snapped up toward Sarah's tree. Child, you must run. Get back, Toe. The world exploded in light and sound. Later, investigators would determine that the Vendrix team had accidentally triggered the facility's automated defense protocols. The resulting energy discharge was relatively small by military standards, a warning shot from a long-dead civilization. But it was more than enough to split Sarah's oak tree in half. The Vendrix survived, their natural energy-dispersing scales protecting them from the worst of the blast. But as the dust settled and the ancient facility fell silent once more, Catal found himself staring at a small, still form half buried in wooden splinters and torn leaves. Get me a medical team. He roared, all 4 sets of arms working to clear debris. Now. But it was too late. Sarah Chen, who had spent her summer days watching aliens uncover history, would never wave back at Catal again. The Vendrix response was swift, and by their standards, appropriate. They sealed off the site, compiled detailed reports, and prepared a compensation package for the Chen family based on carefully calculated economic metrics. Catal himself drafted a formal apology, expressing deep regret for the unfortunate accident. What the Vendrix failed to understand, what would soon shake the foundations of their society, was that humans did not measure the value of a child's life in credits or formal apologies. The news reached Earth 48 hours later. In a sparse conference room deep beneath Geneva, the Human Defense Council received the report in silence. No one spoke as footage from the site played across their screens. No one needed to. Admiral Helena Vasquez, her dark eyes hard as granite, was the first to break the silence. You've all read the brief. Comments? The Vendrix are calling it an accident, General Zhang offered, his weathered face carefully neutral. Their diplomatic corps is already preparing statements about shared responsibility for archaeological safety protocols. An accident. The word fell from Vasquez's lips like a stone. They accidentally activated an ancient weapons platform without proper containment procedures. They accidentally failed to evacuate civilians from the area. They accidentally killed Sarah Chen. The room temperature seemed to drop several degrees. They don't understand. Dr. Ilara Patel, the council's xenopsychology expert, interjected. In Vendrick's culture, children are viewed as replaceable. They lay clutches of hundreds of eggs. Individual loss is seen as statistically inevitable. Then perhaps, Vasque said quietly, it's time they learned about human values. The hard way. Around the table, heads nodded. The decision had already been made. Humanity had spent decades presenting itself as a peaceful diplomatic species. They had hidden their true military capabilities behind a carefully crafted facade of technological parity. They had endured slights and border provocations, playing the long game. But there were lines that could not be crossed. The death of a child, any child, was one of them. Initialize Protocol Nemesis, Vasquez commanded. All fleet elements are to begin immediate mobilization. Activation codes for the Phantom Division are to be distributed. And get me a direct line to the Chen family. They deserve to know what's coming. As the council members moved to their tasks with grim efficiency, a single image remained frozen on the main screen. Sarah Chen's last school photo, her smile bright and innocent beneath the alien purple sky of New Eden. The Vendricks had thought they understood humans. They were about to discover how wrong they were. Silent thunder. Deep within the Vendricks' central command, High Commander Zextal scrolled through the incident report from New Eden with growing irritation. His subordinates had expected this to cause a diplomatic incident, but the human silence was becoming unsettling. 3 days had passed since the accident, and Earth had issued no formal protests, no demands for reparations, not even a strongly worded message. Most irregular, he muttered, his scales shifting to a troubled amber. Show me the orbital feeds from human space. The holographic display expanded, showing routine traffic patterns across Earth-controlled systems. Merchant vessels continued their routes. Civilian ships moved between colonies. Nothing suggested any military mobilization. Perhaps they are more reasonable than we anticipated, his aide offered. The compensation package was quite generous. Zextal's scales rippled. Something felt wrong, but he couldn't place it. The humans were emotional creatures. Their silence defied everything his species knew about them. Little did he know that beneath the peaceful surface, humanity was awakening its true might. In the asteroid fields of the Kuiper Belt, massive hangar doors were opening for the first time in decades. Ships emerged from their hidden berths, vessels that no alien race had ever seen. The Phantom Division, Earth's secret fleet, was coming alive. Aboard the flagship Nemesis, Admiral Vasquez stood on the bridge, watching as her crew prepared for war. The ship itself was a testament to how thoroughly humanity had deceived the galaxy. While other species believed humans relied on conventional fusion drives, the Nemesis wielded dark matter engines that bent space itself. Its hull, composed of metamaterials developed in absolute secrecy, could render the massive vessel virtually invisible to all known detection methods. Status report, she commanded. All systems optimal. Admiral, her XO, Commander James Chen, responded. Sarah's uncle had requested a transfer to the Nemesis the moment the operation was approved. Ghost Fleet Groups 1 through 7 report ready. Quantum communication networks are secure. Vasquez nodded. The Ghost Fleets represented decades of hidden military development, ships that officially didn't exist, crewed by personnel whose service records had been buried so deep that even most of Earth's government didn't know about them. And the Chen device, ready for deployment. Chen's voice was steady, but his eyes burned with controlled fury. Final testing confirms it will perform exactly as designed. The Chen device was perhaps humanity's greatest deception. Named for Dr. Li Chen, Sarah's grandmother, It represented a breakthrough in quantum field manipulation that the rest of the galaxy believed was theoretically impossible. One device could disable any known energy shield or weapons system within a light-minute radius. Earth had built thousands. Meanwhile, on New Eden, the Vindrix archaeological team was preparing to depart. They had sealed the ancient facility, filed their reports, and delivered the compensation package to the Chen family's lawyers. Dr. Ktal alone seemed troubled by the humans' subdued response. "We should stay," he insisted to his superiors. "Something isn't right. The humans I've observed, they don't process loss this way." His concerns were dismissed. The Vindrix understood statistics and probability. One death, tragic though it might be, was hardly cause for alarm in a galaxy of billions. That fundamental misunderstanding would prove to be their undoing. In orbit around Jupiter, the first wave of Ghost Fleet vessels began to move. Their dark matter drives left no energy signatures. Their metamaterial hulls absorbed or deflected all scanning methods. Like shadows among the stars, humanity's true military might float outward into the galaxy. On Earth, the Defense Council convened one final time before the operation began. The room was silent as Admiral Vasquez delivered her report via quantum link. "All fleet elements are in position," she stated. "The Vindrix remain unaware of our mobilization. Their border defenses are at standard levels." "And the civilian population?" Dr. Patel asked. Even in warfare, humanity hadn't abandoned its principles. "Evacuation protocols are in place. When we strike, it will be military and government targets only." "We're not them." Vasquez's expression hardened. "But we will show them exactly what it means to harm one of our children." The council members nodded in agreement. Humanity had played the long game, presenting itself as just another middling spacefaring species. They had endured being underestimated, even occasionally bullied, all while building the most powerful fleet the galaxy had never seen. Now, that patience would pay off. In the darkness of space, humanity's ships moved like silent thunder, unseen, undetected, but carrying devastating power. The Vindrix, confident in their superior numbers and technology, continued about their business, unaware that their every movement was being watched, every defense grid mapped, every weakness noted. Aboard the Nemesis, Commander Chen stared at a hologram of his niece's face. Sarah's smile, frozen in time, reminded him of why they were here. This wasn't about revenge. It was about justice, and ensuring that no species would ever again mistake humanity's capacity for peace as weakness. "Final checks complete, Admiral," he reported. "All ships signal ready." Admiral Vasquez stood at the command center, her posture straight, her resolve unshakable. "Send the message." Across Vindrix space, every communication system simultaneously received the same transmission, a simple image of Sarah Chen, followed by 6 words that would change the galaxy forever. "You should have kept her safe." Then the ghost ships revealed themselves, and the true face of humanity's power was finally unveiled. The awakening. The first sign that something was wrong came when every defense grid in the Vindrix core systems simultaneously went dark. For exactly 3 seconds, their most sophisticated scanners, shields, and weapons systems simply ceased to function. When they came back online, the galaxy had changed forever. High Commander Zextal's scales turned ash-white as the impossible filled his command center's view screens. Where there had been empty space moments before, now hung ships of unmistakably human design, but unlike any human vessels the Vindrix had ever encountered. They seemed to drink in light itself, their hulls rippling with patterns that confused both organic eyes and electronic sensors. "Status report," he barked, but his command staff could only stare in stunned silence as more ships materialized. Hundreds of them. Thousands. An armada that dwarfed anything the Vindrix had believed humans capable of building. Aboard the Nemesis, Admiral Vasquez watched the Vindrix response with cold satisfaction. "Deploy Chen devices across all targeted systems. Communications blackout in 3, 2, 1. Across Vindrix space, quantum field manipulators activated. Every military communication network, every defense grid, every weapons platform fell silent. The most technologically advanced civilization in known space found itself suddenly cut off, blind and helpless. All fleet elements. Vasquez's voice carried across the quantum network that only human ships could access. Execute primary objectives. Remember your training. Remember why we're here. The Ghost Fleet moved with devastating precision. Decades of hidden preparation paid off as human ships demonstrated capabilities that the Vindrix had believed technologically impossible. Dark matter drives allowed them to appear and disappear at will. Metamaterial hulls absorbed or redirected any defensive fire that the Vindrix managed to launch. On the Vindrix homeworld, the High Council gathered in emergency session. Their military installations were being systematically disabled, their fleets corralled and contained, their government centers surrounded, all without a single human weapon being fired. How is this possible? First Speaker Lextall demanded, her scales cycling through patterns of fear and confusion. Their technology was inferior. We monitored them for decades. Dr. Catal, hastily summoned from New Eden, stepped forward. They let us believe they were inferior. Every interaction, every technological exchange. It was all carefully crafted to make us underestimate them. But why? Another council member asked. Why maintain such an elaborate deception? Because Catal's scales darkened with realization. They were preparing for exactly this scenario. They knew that someday, someone would cross a line they couldn't ignore. And when that happened, his voice trailed off as the chamber's screens lit up with a new transmission. Admiral Vasquez's face appeared before the council, her expression carved from stone. I am here to educate you about humanity, she began, her voice carrying an authority that made even the first speaker fall silent. You believe us emotional, yet fail to understand the logic behind those emotions. You see our care for individual lives as weakness, never grasping that it is the source of our strength. Images began to play behind her. Sarah Chen playing in her garden, helping younger children with their studies, waving to the archaeological team from her tree. This child was under our protection. All children are under our protection. This is not a negotiating position. This is not a cultural difference to be debated. This is what we are. In orbit, the Ghost Fleet maintained its perfect formation. Not a single shot had been fired, yet the Vindrix military found itself completely neutralized. Human ships had positioned themselves with surgical precision, using the Chen devices to create a web of quantum disruption that rendered resistance impossible. Commander Chen's voice came through on a private channel. Admiral, we're detecting emergency broadcasts from several Vindrix colony worlds. Their orbital defense platforms are failing. Should we maintain containment protocols? Vasquez ordered, but ensure their civilian safety systems remain operational. We're not here to terrorize their population. We're here to teach them about consequences. The Vindrix Council watched in helpless awe as their military infrastructure was systematically locked down. Centuries of technological advancement meant nothing in the face of human innovations they hadn't even known were possible. Your military forces will stand down, Vasquez continued. Your government will acknowledge its failure to protect an innocent life, and you will learn that humanity's capacity for peace was never a sign of weakness. It was a choice you forced us to reconsider. First Speaker Lextall found her voice at last. And if we refuse? The Admiral's expression didn't change, but something in her eyes made the entire council flinch. We have the capability to disable every piece of technology in your civilization, to reduce you to a pre-industrial state with the push of a button. We won't, because we are better than that. But never doubt that we could. As if to emphasize her point, the Chen devices pulsed again. Across Vindrix space, every military vessel, defense platform, and weapons system went dark once more, this time for a full minute. When power returned, The message was clear. Resistance wasn't just futile, it was impossible. In the silence that followed, Dr. Kittle stepped forward again. First speaker, if I may. I believe I understand now. We thought we were studying them, analyzing their weaknesses, their emotional responses. But they were studying us, learning exactly how to neutralize us if it ever became necessary. He turned to the image of Admiral Vasquez. The question is, what happens now? The Admiral's reply was immediate. Now you learn. You learn about the value of every life. You learn about the responsibilities that come with power. You learn why humanity chose peace, not because we had to, but because we understood its true worth. The Ghost Fleet hung in formation, their dark matter drives humming silently, their metamaterial hulls rippling like liquid shadow. They had revealed humanity's true face to the galaxy, and nothing would ever be the same. Mercy's price. 3 days into humanity's demonstration of power, Admiral Vasquez received a transmission that would test the very principles they were fighting to defend. The message came from a Vendrix colony world on the Outer Rim, and its contents made even her hardened expression soften for a moment. "Play it again," she ordered, watching as a young Vendrix appeared on screen. Its scales were still soft with youth, showing the pearlescent sheen characteristic of their children. Behind it, dozens more juvenile Vendrix huddled in what appeared to be an educational facility. "Please," the young one's translator conveyed, "our environmental systems are failing. The quantum disruption field. Our egg-warming chambers are losing power. Without proper temperature regulation, hundreds of us won't survive the next cycle." Commander Chen moved to his admiral's side, his face tight with conflicting emotions. The Chen device wasn't designed to discriminate between military and civilian technology. "We never anticipated." "No," Vasquez cut him off. "We did anticipate this. We just hoped it wouldn't come to it." She straightened her uniform. "Get me a direct line to the Defense Council. Now." In Geneva, the council chamber was silent as they watched the transmission. Dr. Patel was the first to speak. "We're facing the same choice they did, the same moral test they failed." "It's not the same," General John countered. "They deliberately killed a child. This would be an unintended consequence of justified military action." "Would it?" Vasquez's voice cut through the debate. "The moment we receive this information, any deaths that follow become a choice. Our choice." The room fell silent again. On screens around them, data scrolled showing the extent of their victory. The Vendrix military was completely neutralized. Their government was ready to accept any terms. They had achieved their strategic objectives without firing a shot. The Ghost Fleet maintained its vigil, their dark matter drives and metamaterial hulls still keeping them virtually invisible to conventional sensors. But now, they were protecting not just humanity's interests, but the principles that made humanity worth protecting. In the end, Mercy had its own power, one that even the most advanced quantum weapons couldn't match. Tomorrow's promise. 1 month after humanity revealed its true power to the galaxy, the New Eden Memorial Gardens opened on the exact spot where Sarah Chen's tree had once stood. The garden was unlike anything the Vendrix had ever seen, a fusion of human and alien botanical arts, where earth roses bloomed alongside crystalline Vendrix memory flowers. At its center stood a holographic projection of Sarah, perpetually sharing her lunch with a younger child. The inscription below, written in both human and Vendrix script, read, "In memory of one child who changed the galaxy, and in promise to all children who will inherit it." Admiral Vasquez stood before the assembled dignitaries, human, Vendrix, and representatives from a dozen other species who had come to witness this moment. The Ghost Fleet hung visible in orbit above, no longer hidden but now a known guardian force. "We gather here not to celebrate victory," she began, "but to mark a beginning. 1 month ago, humanity showed the galaxy our strength. Today, we show our purpose." First Speaker Lextall stepped forward, her scales shimmering with formal patterns of contrition and hope. The Vindrix people have learned much in these past weeks, about humanity, about ourselves, and about the true meaning of civilization. She gestured to the assembled group of Vindrix children who sat integrated with human children from the colony. We thought we understood power. We measured it in fleets, in weapons, in territory controlled. But true power, as humanity has taught us, lies in what you choose not to do when you have every capability to do it. Commander Chen, standing with his family, watched as his brother, Sarah's father, rose to speak. David Chen's voice carried across the garden with quiet strength. My daughter loved to learn. She loved to teach. In her final days, she spent her time watching aliens uncover history. He paused, composing himself. Today, we make new history, not through force, but through understanding. On screens across the galaxy, the ceremony was broadcast as the Galactic Accords for the Protection of Young Lives were signed. The document, drafted jointly by human and Vindrix legal experts, established unprecedented protections for children of all species. More significantly, it created the Interstellar Guardian Force, a multinational fleet powered by human technology, but governed by representatives from all signing worlds. Dr. Catal, now serving as the lead Vindrix representative to the Guardian Force, addressed the gathering. We thought we were studying humanity's weaknesses. Instead, we discovered their greatest strength, the ability to wield overwhelming power with wisdom and restraint. The Chen device, its military applications now public knowledge, was being adapted for peaceful purposes. The quantum field manipulation technology that had neutralized the Vindrix military was being modified to power new forms of exploration vessels, medical equipment, and environmental protection systems. Lieutenant Martinez, promoted for her role in protecting the Vindrix children, demonstrated the first civilian application, a modified Chen device that could maintain stable environments for multiple species to coexist in the same space. The garden itself was one of the first test sites. This is how we honor her memory, Admiral Vasquez continued. Not through dominance, but through protection. Not through fear, but through understanding. The Ghost Fleet will remain visible now, not as a threat, but as a promise. In orbit, the human ships had been joined by vessels from other races, their crews training together in the new Guardian Force. The metamaterial hulls that had once hidden humanity's power now gleamed openly in the sun, a reminder of both capability and restraint. We are not here to rule, Vasquez declared, but to protect. To ensure that no child, of any species, ever has to pay the price of adult conflicts again. As she spoke, a group of young Vindrix approached the hologram of Sarah, their scales shifting in patterns that their ancestors would have considered impossible, expressions of cross-species empathy that were becoming more common. They placed their own memory flowers at the base, the crystalline blooms catching the light of New Eden's sun. David Chen watched this display with tears in his eyes. Sarah would have loved this, he whispered to his brother. She always said that making new friends was better than making new enemies. The ceremony concluded with a new tradition, human and Vindrix children together planting seeds in the garden soil. Each seed was a hybrid, developed by joint scientific teams, that would grow into plants displaying characteristics of both worlds. As the galaxy watched, humanity had transformed a moment of tragedy into an engine of progress. The power they had revealed was now being used not to dominate, but to protect and nurture. The Ghost Fleet, once hidden, had become a visible symbol of a new kind of strength, one measured not in destructive capability, but in the wisdom to know when not to use it. In the end, Sarah Chen's death had indeed changed the galaxy, but not through vengeance or force. It had changed it through the very qualities she had embodied in life: kindness, curiosity, and the simple wisdom that being good was more important than being powerful. As night fell on New Eden, the garden's bioluminescent plants began to glow, their light a testament to what could be achieved when different species worked together. Above, the combined fleet of the Guardian Force maintained their vigilant orbit, their presence a constant reminder of the promise humanity had made to all the galaxy's children. You are safe. You are protected. You are the future we all share.